We've got more breaking news here in Washington in just the last hour from the White House, where one of the world's most powerful men fielded questions from reporters in the Oval Office alongside his son. Not President Trump, but Elon Musk, explaining his mission to try to slash the size of the federal government and do things like investigate the net worth of workers relative to their pay. Is that legal? Not clear, at least not right now. But we do know some of the other controversial things the Trump administration has tried to do have been stopped or slowed by the federal courts. You see that list here. Number of items setting up a potential showdown between the executive and judicial branches. Aaron Gilchrist is live for us at the White House. Aaron, what was so interesting to watch in this dynamic was President Trump, it seemed very comfortably turning over the spotlight to Elon Musk in the Oval Office, in the center of power in Washington and in this country.
Very unusual in so many ways, right? Typically, in a setting like this, you have President Trump do all of the talking. And in this case, you saw him more than once defer to Elon Musk to explain what he's been doing. He's had this team at DOGE, which is an office inside the White House, not a department or an agency. But he's had this team going into all of the agencies and taking a look around. And we heard him sort of explain what they've been doing. He said that they are being maximally transparent. That was the term that he used in talking about putting information on the DOGE website and on the DOGE X account, for example, although when you go and look at some of those places, it doesn't necessarily explain in great detail the work that they've been doing. He did, though, talk about things like going into the Treasury Department and looking at payment systems that he believes were not operating in the most effective way in terms of tracking where the money is going in the Treasury Department. He talked about taking a cursory look at Social Security payments and seeing that there were people who were 150 years old receiving Social Security benefits. And so that is really the first time we've gotten any indication of what his team has been finding, really, although some of that is not stuff that we can verify, to be perfectly honest with you. We need to see the receipts, as the saying goes. I do want you to hear a little bit of what Elon Musk had to say, though, about this idea of transparency and conflicts of interest, that questions were asked about him having personal conflicts of interest with his businesses doing business with the federal government while he's doing these searches.
I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there. So it's not like I think I can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop.
So he says that checks and balances are in place and he's not just sort of doing things willy-nilly. And you heard President Trump there, Hallie, seem to back him up.
There's also, when the president did speak, one of the things he was asked about and that he talked about were what we talked about just a moment ago, the courts putting a pause temporarily or in some cases blocking indefinitely some of his policies that he's been wanting to put in place. Let me play that here.
I always abide by the courts, always abide by them, and will appeal. But appeals take a long time, and I would hope that a judge, if you go into a judge and you show him, here's a corrupt situation, we have a check to be sent, but we found it to be corrupt. Do you want us to send this corrupt check to a person, or do you want us not to give it and give it back to the taxpayer?
Aaron, there had been some concern and there remains some concern among Trump critics that the president is essentially, and his administration, planting the seeds to potentially defy a court order here. What are you hearing on your end from sources?
So we have been hearing about frustration inside the Trump team about the fact that there have been so many challenges in the courts to the executive orders and actions that the president has taken in these last couple of weeks here. At the same time, there are other officials who say that they expected that there would be challenges. They expected they would end up in court. They do express some discomfort with the fact that it's going to have to move slowly through the courts. We heard the president reference that in his remarks tonight, that he wants to abide by court rulings, but he was frustrated that it would mean having to appeal and appeal and appeal potentially all the way up to the Supreme Court, Hallie. And in some of these cases, that is exactly what it appears is going to have to happen. The question becomes, though, when some of these holds are put in place, these temporary restraining orders, for example, will they be followed to the letter of the law? And there have been some instances already where plaintiffs have come back to the courts and said, no, they're not being followed to the letter.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.